Let me take you to one area that you know so well. Do you still fly an aircraft?
I'm still an active flying pilot.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of a national carrier, a good one or a bad one?
Excellent idea. Because Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people. And we have had a long history of being a dependable source of aviation in the continent. During the time of Nigeria Airways, I'm sure maybe you are a young boy that time, but everyone who has existed in the 70s will have told you that we had a robust national carrier that every Nigerian was very proud of. In fact, people hardly traveled by British Airways or Lufthansa or anything. It was Nigeria Airways because it was cheaper, it was reliable, it was safe, it was run efficiently until things began to change. You understand? Now, aviation is a very, very complex and sensitive industry. And therefore, it has always insisted that in its program of action, at whatever level, stakeholders must be taken into account. I think that is where we had issues with yeah.
So let's take it one after the other. You said having a national carrier is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
But with the Nigeria Air and the manner in which it went under the minister, Sirika, former Minister of Aviation under the Buhari government, what do you think went wrong?
I think what went wrong was that the minister had a lot of self-confidence in his ability to do this alone. Now, that is not acceptable in aviation.
When you say alone,
yeah, alone,
who should he have carried along?
He should have carried the stakeholders, the National Assembly, and then some experts who will have given him the necessary advice, you understand, to carefully, navigate through the process. But you can see that somewhere along the line, I think he had a lot of confidence in his ability to do so, alone. So he kept everything to his chest as a ministry, as a minister, and therefore he was busy pursuing this matter to actualize before the handover of government May 29. Of course, like I have told you, because of the sensitivity of the industry, because of his requirement to carry along stakeholders, if you don't do that, you will definitely not succeed.
But the question is that when the lawmakers are talking and describing it as a fraud, there are those who came out to say, where were you guys when this idea was being raised?
Thank you very much. The House of Representatives said it's a fraud. And every Nigerian has right to ask, where were the lawmakers? But the issue is, you do not go to run a ministry for a minister. You don't do it.
But you play an oversight role.
No, let me tell you, that's where you are getting it wrong. If you look at the entire budgeting process for the last 4 years, the entire budgeting process, most of the expenses regarding Nigeria Air were not there. And we were supposed to be oversighting what we have budgeted for the implementation. For example, if things have gone wrong about airport facilities, airport infrastructures, and the rest, you can blame us. Here, what we expected was that in the requirement to consult stakeholders, the minister will have known or should have known that the National Assembly is equally a stakeholder in this thing, and then he should have taken the National Assembly along.
Yeah.
But you see, he had consultants, allegedly, that's what we were told, and those consultants were the one driving the process. And until he comes to us and say, look, this is where we are, this is the help that we need, we cannot just go and tell him we cannot be legislator and be ministers at the same time.
Senators, let me ask you, is it a fraud because stakeholders were not carried along, or is a fraud, according to the lawmakers, based on discrepancy that you have found out in the funding or the financing or in the administrative dispensation of this project?
Well, Shehu, happily enough, I was a member of the Senate in the 9th Assembly. I was never a member of the House of Representatives. And I'm sure, from what you have read and seen, it was the House of Representatives that described that process as a fraud.
So from the Senate point of view,
we never said it was a fraud. But we admitted the fact that there were certain things that were wrong, that were done wrongly, and if certain things were taken into account, we will not have been in this needless controversy. So it will be uncharitable for me to comment on whether it's a fraud or not when I have not come to the conclusion that it is one.
But from your point of view, is it a fraud or not?
No, I will not say it's a fraud because I have no reason to say it's a fraud. Let me tell you, it was a well-intentioned project. But what went wrong, I believe, I hope I'm wrong, was that the ministry kept everything to its chest. So necessary advice that would have helped the project to seemingly, seamlessly, how do I develop?
Yeah.
Were not available to the minister. And like I told you, based on what we were told, he was working with consultants. And those consultants were the one advising him. So, but he has to take responsibility as a minister. But what is important is that the end result will show clearly that things really went wrong in the process.
Let's break it down. There are 5 stages before the final approval for the takeoff of the airline.
Yeah.
It's gone through the very first, which is perhaps one of the shortest.
No, it's not one of the shortest, because that space holder position works this way. You want to run a television station. You want a newscaster. Has he actually been to School of Journalism? Yes. What was his course? Yes. How was he? This is what NCA will be looking. So the aviation industry, the Nigeria Air will say, look, one, we need captains. The NCA will look at them. What is their record? How many hours have they? Do they have the capacity to safely fly this aircraft? They will say, okay, this is the engineer to be maintaining this aircraft. NCA will look at his record. For how long has he been maintaining similar type of aircraft? What are his results? Because we have logging.
So the reason why I asked that question, Senator, is because if there are procedures, I mean, you said from the financing and the funding and all what you're saying, you don't think that it's a fraud, but because he didn't carry people along.
No. Because he maybe, you see, whether you like it or not, the outcome of what has come shows that there was problem. So we are only speculating because the minister is the only person who can speak for himself. But what we are saying is that if he had consulted widely, if he had taken the stakeholders along, it will have been an issue of collective responsibility. But the fact that people are now denying the process shows that they were really not taking along.
That's what I'm saying, the breakdown now, from the procedure, there are 5 stages. He's gone through the 4th stage. So far,
I think he went up to the 3rd stage, the Nigeria Air. But you see, if, for example, the industry is so sensitive, let's take channels as an example. If you say, okay, Shehu is the program manager for, let's say, Politics Today, and then based on that, MBC is satisfied with his with his knowledge of journalism and his ethics regarding the presentation of the program. MBC will say, okay, we are okay, he can run that program. That's how the aviation industry works. So, stage 1 is to present those people who are going to run the airline.
The airline,
yes. This is our mechanic. The equipment we are going to use is 737. And don't forget that in aviation, the man who takes care of avionics is different. The man who takes care of the airframe is different. The man who takes care of the engine is different. Even the man who is vulcanizing the tires for the aircraft are all different. And they all have to go through training. And then they all have to log certain hours of that to show competence. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, because you are talking about safety.
You look at one of the things that a lot of people have raised an eyebrow. A young man, David, was the one who first came to town to say, there's something wrong about this. It's an Ethiopian chartered airline. And that a few days before, this was the activities, he tracked it and trailed it up on the point that it returned to the Bole International Airport in Addis Ababa and all the activity. And it came to the light, and a lot of Nigerians now were saying that, I mean, there's something wrong. From that scenario, how would you describe what has gone wrong?
Okay, let me tell you something.
Or what went down?
Let me tell you something about aircraft. From the day that an aircraft is pulled out from the factory where it's manufactured, till the end when it is fully decommissioned, every detail about that aircraft you can know by looking at the logbook. You know, there are so many in the engine has.
But if Nigeria Air, it's been said that aircraft is not a Nigerian Air. It's not. It's part of the partners, the operators, and it's being painted to make it look like it's a Nigerian aircraft. And that's what I'm asking you.
Yesterday...
How would you describe that scenario?
Yesterday, if you have watched me clearly, Captain Olumide said the whole idea was to come and make and unveil the aircraft to show to Nigerians this is how we are going to look like when we start operating. That's what he said. And I said to him, yeah, but was that necessary? He said, yes, it was necessary. Sorry, he said it was necessary. Then I now asked him, was it reasonably necessary to have done so? Because you can paint any other aircraft, even the ones that are there, and then show this is how it's going to look at. But you know, everybody has his own way of approaching issues. Maybe they felt it's 737 we are going to operate and there, but there are a lot of 737 here who that can be painted internally, and they will carry Nigerian number. For example, those that belong to ARIC, those that belong to Airpeace. You understand? So, but they have their own reason for doing what they did.
Senator, finally, what is the way forward from here?
Well, it's very difficult to honestly and clearly say the way forward. And I will tell you why. Because until you know what went into that Nigerian air, you cannot just come and provide solutions based on ignorance. So you should have some knowledge.
So the Senate or the National Assembly is not aware of the details?
What details are we aware of?
I'm asking. You guys are not aware.
As far as the Senate is concerned, we were aware that there was going to be Nigerian air. We were aware that some consultants were asked, because in one of the briefings that the minister gave us, we were equally aware that he said that he had a meeting with stakeholders. But again, we are equally aware that the stakeholders came and said the details of that were not made available to them, so therefore they could not have participated